The battle began without warning. On the morning of the fifth day, the Krylos fleet launched its first major assault. Massive beams of energy tore through space, slamming into the Sentinel's protective barrier. The black ships absorbed the impact with ease, their shimmering shields glowing brighter as they deflected the attacks. Despite their strength, however, cracks began to form. Smaller vessels in the Sentinel fleet sustained damage, their sleek surfaces scorched and scarred by the relentless barrage. Commander Rachel Hayes watched the chaos unfold from her command center. Her heart pounded as she monitored the situation on multiple screens. The Sentinels were holding their ground for now, but it was clear they couldn't endure such punishment to the full fury of the Krylos armada. "Launch the squadrons," Rachel ordered, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Stick to the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and get out." Lieutenant Chris Dawson and Captain Laura Bennett led the first wave of fighters. Their ships roared into space, engines blazing as they approached the Krylos fleet. The enemy responded immediately, deploying swarms of smaller craft to intercept them. Explosions lit up the void as lasers and missiles crisscrossed the battlefield. Earth's pilots fought valiantly, weaving through the chaos with practiced skill. But the odds were overwhelming. The Krylos ships were faster, more maneuverable, and armed with devastating weapons. Chris gritted his teeth as he dodged a volley of enemy fire. His fighter shuddered under the strain, alarms blaring in the cockpit. He glanced at his radar screen, checking the positions of his teammates. "Stay close," he shouted over the comms. "We can't afford to scatter." Laura's voice crackled in response. "Copy that. Keep moving. Don't let them pin us down." The two leaders coordinated their movements, guiding their squadrons through the maelstrom. They targeted weak points in the enemy formation, exploiting gaps in their defenses. Every hit they landed felt like a small victory, but the cost was high. Several Earth fighters were destroyed, their pilots lost in fiery explosions. Chris clenched his fists as he watched another ship spiral out of control. "Hold together," he muttered under his breath. "Just hold together." Back on Earth, civilians watched the battle unfold in real time. News networks broadcast live, footage captured by satellites and drones. People gathered around televisions and tablets, their faces pale with fear and awe. In New York City, journalist Daniel Harper stood amidst a crowd in Times Square, documenting the scene. A woman nearby clutched her child tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Please let them win," she whispered, her voice trembling. Others prayed silently, their eyes fixed on the massive screens overhead. President Alan Carter addressed the nation once again, urging calm and unity. "Our brave men and women are fighting for our survival," he said, his tone resolute. "Let us honor their sacrifice by standing strong. Together we will prevail." Despite the president's words, panic spread in some areas. Cities closest to potential targets were evacuated, with millions fleeing to underground shelters. Traffic jams stretched for miles as families packed cars with whatever supplies they could carry. Soldiers and volunteers worked tirelessly to maintain order, guiding people to safety and distributing food and water. Amidst the chaos, acts of kindness emerged. Strangers shared resources, comforted each other, and helped the elderly and disabled reach shelter. Meanwhile, Dr. Benjamin Cole continued his analysis of the Krylos fleet. Using data collected during the battle, he refined his earlier findings about their shield generators. "It's not just one generator," he explained to Rachel during a brief call. "Each ship has multiple nodes connected to a central hub. If we disable the hub, the entire system collapses." Rachel nodded, absorbing the information. "How do we find it?" she asked. "It'll be heavily guarded," Cole replied. "But if you can get close enough to scan the flagship, I think we can pinpoint its location." Rachel knew what had to be done. She assembled a small strike team, selecting only her most skilled pilots and soldiers. Chris and Laura volunteered immediately, refusing to stay behind. "We started this fight," Laura said firmly. "We're finishing it." The mission was risky, a suicide run by any measure. The flagship loomed like a fortress in the distance, bristling with weapons and surrounded by an impenetrable swarm of escorts. Breaking through its defenses would require precision, timing, and sheer luck. Rachel briefed the team, laying out the plan in detail. "Our goal is simple: infiltrate the flagship, locate the shield generator hub, and destroy it. Once that's done, we fall back and let the main fleet finish the job." The team suited up, checking their gear one last time before boarding their ships. As they prepared to launch, Rachel approached Chris and Laura. "This isn't going to be easy," she said, her expression grim. "But if we succeed, it could turn the tide. Are you ready?" "Ready as we'll ever be," Chris replied, forcing a smile. With a final nod, Rachel gave the order to depart. The strike team launched into space, racing toward the flagship at top speed. Behind them, Earth's remaining fighters launched a diversionary attack, drawing the enemy's attention away from the infiltration force. Explosions erupted across the battlefield as both sides clashed fiercely. The Sentinels held their position, their damaged ships still managing to absorb the worst of the Krylos's firepower. As the strike team neared the flagship, they encountered heavy resistance. Enemy fighters swarmed around them, firing relentlessly. Laura barked orders over the comms, directing her teammates to stick together and return fire. Missiles streaked past their ships, narrowly missing their targets. One of the team's fighters exploded, sending debris spiraling into the void. "Keep moving!" Chris shouted. "Don't stop!" Against all odds, the team reached the flagship's hull. Docking ports lined its surface, guarded by automated turrets. Laura expertly maneuvered her ship into position, disabling the nearest turret with a well-placed shot. The others followed suit, securing entry points for the ground team. Soldiers poured out of the ships, their armor gleaming under the harsh artificial light. Armed with rifles and explosives, they moved swiftly, taking cover behind crates and machinery scattered across the deck. Inside the flagship, the air was thick with tension. Strange, insectoid creatures scurried through corridors, their chitinous bodies clicking against metal floors. The soldiers advanced cautiously, scanning every corner for threats. Chris took point, his weapon raised as he led the way. "Stay sharp," he whispered. "They know we're here." They encountered their first group of enemies moments later. The Krylos warriors were tall and menacing, their exoskeletons reinforced with biomechanical enhancements. Blaster bolts flew in all directions as the humans opened fire. The aliens fought ferociously, but the soldiers held their ground, pushing forward inch by inch. Laura covered the rear, ensuring no one snuck up behind them. "We're almost there," she called out, spotting a large door marked with alien symbols. Dr. Cole's voice crackled over the comms. "That's it, the central hub. Get inside and plant the charges." Chris nodded, signaling his team to breach the door. They burst into the chamber, finding themselves face to face with rows of pulsating nodes connected to a massive core. The hum of energy filled the air, vibrating through their suits. "Set the charges," Chris ordered, keeping watch near the entrance. Soldiers worked quickly, placing explosives at key locations. Sweat dripped down their faces as they counted down the seconds. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Reinforcements poured into the corridor, cutting off their escape route. Chris cursed under his breath, raising his rifle to hold the line. "Hurry up!" he yelled. "We're almost done!" One of the soldiers shouted back, fiddling with the detonator. Outside, the battle raged on. Earth's fighters continued their assault, buying precious time for the strike team. The Sentinels fought valiantly, their ships sustaining critical damage but refusing to yield. Captain Elena Vega's voice came over the comms, addressing Rachel directly. "Your people are running out of time. If you don't succeed soon, we will be forced to withdraw." Rachel clenched her fists, watching the clock tick down. "Come on," she murmured. "You can do this. Back inside the flagship, the charges..." were finally set. "Detonator armed," the soldier announced, handing the device to Chris. "Let's go!" The team retreated as fast as they could, exchanging fire with the Krylos warriors guarding the corridor. Bullets ricocheted off walls, sparks flying everywhere. Just as they reached the exit, the explosives detonated. A deafening roar shook the entire ship as the shield generator hub imploded, sending shockwaves rippling through the structure. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered wildly. "Fall back!" Chris ordered, leading the charge toward their waiting ships. They sprinted across the deck, dodging falling debris and bursts of energy. Enemy fighters scrambled to intercept them, but Earth's surviving pilots provided cover, engaging the hostiles in a desperate dogfight. One by one, the strike team boarded their ships and launched into space. Behind them, the flagship began to break apart, its systems failing without the shield generator. Secondary explosions tore through its hull, reducing the once mighty vessel to a burning wreck. The rest of the Krylos fleet faltered, their coordination disrupted by the loss of their command ship. Earth's forces seized the opportunity. Years had passed since the battle with the Krylos, and Earth continued to thrive under its newfound unity. The scars of war had faded, replaced by a sense of purpose and progress. Humanity had taken its first steps into the stars, establishing colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan. The Global Defense Initiative remained vigilant, ensuring that Earth's defenses were stronger than ever. Yet despite these achievements, Rachel Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She often thought about Captain Elena Vega and the Sentinels. Their mysterious intervention had saved Earth, but their abrupt departure left many questions unanswered. What had they meant when they said humanity's survival depended on its ability to adapt and unite? And why had they chosen to help in the first place? Rachel felt as though there was more to their story, something she hadn't uncovered yet. She spent her evenings poring over old data, searching for clues that might lead her to the truth. One night, while reviewing archived transmissions from the battle, Rachel noticed something unusual. A faint signal buried within one of the recordings caught her attention. It wasn't part of the original message, but rather a fragment that had been overlooked during the chaos. The signal was weak, almost imperceptible, but it contained coordinates, pointing to a distant region of space. Rachel's heart raced as she cross-referenced the coordinates with star maps. They led to an uncharted sector far beyond the reaches of human exploration, a place where no ships had ventured before. Could this be a clue left behind by the Sentinels, or was it a trap set by the Krylos? Either way, Rachel knew she couldn't ignore it. This could be the key to understanding the mysteries of the universe and perhaps preventing another conflict. The next morning, Rachel presented her findings to President Alan Carter and the leaders of the Global Defense Initiative. "These coordinates may hold answers," she explained. "If we want to understand who the Sentinels are and why they helped us, we need to investigate." Carter hesitated, his brow furrowed with concern. "It's risky," he said. "We don't know what's out there. If we send a ship, we could be walking into danger." "I know the risks," Rachel replied firmly. "But staying here won't get us any closer to the truth. We've come too far to stop now." After much deliberation, the Council agreed to authorize a reconnaissance mission. A small fleet of advanced ships, equipped with the latest technology, salvaged from the Krylos flagship, was assembled for the journey. Rachel volunteered to lead the expedition herself, despite protests from her colleagues. "If anyone should go, it's me," she insisted. "I've been chasing this mystery since the beginning. Let me see it through." The crew included some of Earth's best pilots and scientists, including Lieutenant Ethan Dawson, who had grown into a skilled leader since his days as a wide-eyed cadet. Dr. Benjamin Cole also joined the team, eager to analyze whatever they might discover. Together, they prepared for the long voyage ahead, knowing full well that they might not return. As the fleet launched into space, millions watched from Earth, holding their breath. This wasn't just a mission, it was a leap into the unknown. The ships traveled faster than any human vessel had gone before, thanks to engines reverse-engineered from Krylos technology. Stars blurred into streaks of light as they approached the edge of explored space. For weeks, the journey was uneventful, filled with quiet moments of anticipation and reflection. Then one day, the sensors picked up something extraordinary. Ahead of them lay a massive structure floating in the void, a sprawling network of interconnected rings glowing faintly with an otherworldly energy. It looked ancient, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with life. Rachel stared at the sight in awe. "Is this a gateway?" she whispered. Dr. Cole studied the readings, his eyes wide with excitement. "It's emitting signals similar to those we detected from the Sentinel's ships," he said. "This must be connected to them somehow." The fleet approached cautiously, scanning the structure for signs of danger. As they drew nearer, AI data transmission crackled through the comms. The voice was unmistakable, calm, measured, and familiar. "Commander Rachel Hayes," it said. "You have followed the path we left for you. Enter, and all will be revealed." Without hesitation, Rachel ordered the fleet to pass through the rings. The moment they crossed the threshold, everything changed. The ships emerged in a breathtaking expanse of space unlike anything they had ever seen. Nebulas swirled in vibrant hues of purple and gold, and countless stars dotted the horizon. In the distance stood a colossal station, its design both alien and beautiful. Sleek black ships orbited the structure, their presence unmistakable. "The Sentinels," Ethan breathed, his voice filled with wonder. The fleet docked at the station, where they were greeted by a delegation of beings unlike any they had encountered before. Tall and graceful, their forms shimmered with an ethereal glow. One of them stepped forward, introducing itself as Ambassador Kale. "Welcome, travelers of Earth," it said, its voice resonating like music. "You have proven yourselves worthy of our trust." Rachel stepped forward, her mind racing with questions. "Why did you help us?" she asked. "And why leave without explanation?" Kale's expression softened. "Our role is to guide fledgling civilizations toward their potential. When the Krylos threatened your world, we intervened to ensure you had a chance to prove your strength. But true growth comes from facing challenges alone. That is why we withdrew. We wanted to see if you would rise to the occasion." Rachel nodded slowly, absorbing the words. "And now? Why bring us here?" "To show you the truth," Kale replied. "Your species is capable of greatness, but the universe is vast and complex. There are forces beyond your understanding, entities that could pose greater threats than the Krylos. By coming here, you have taken the first step toward joining a larger community, a coalition of civilizations working together to preserve peace and knowledge." Over the following days, the humans learned about the Sentinels' mission and the delicate balance they maintained across the galaxy. They toured the station, marveling at its advanced technology and meeting representatives from other worlds. Each encounter deepened their understanding of the cosmos and their place within it. When the time came to return home, Rachel felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity still had much to learn, but it was no longer alone. As the fleet departed, Kale offered one final piece of advice. "Remember, strength lies not in weapons, but in unity. Use what you have gained wisely." Back on Earth, Rachel shared the story of their journey with President Carter and the global leaders. News of the Sentinel's invitation spread quickly, inspiring hope and curiosity. Humanity began preparing for its next chapter, not as isolated inhabitants of a single planet, but as members of a galactic community. As Rachel gazed at the stars, once more, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. The road ahead would be challenging, but humanity was ready. Together, they would face whatever the universe held and continue to reach for the stars. Months passed since the battle with the Krylos, and Earth began to heal. Cities that had been damaged were slowly rebuilt, their streets filled once again with the hum of life. People returned to their routines, though the scars of the conflict lingered in their minds. Memorials stood as reminders of the sacrifices made, and stories of heroism continued to inspire. Humanity had survived its first encounter with an alien empire, but the experience had changed everyone. It was no longer possible to ignore the vastness of the universe or the dangers it held. Commander Rachel Hayes spent her days overseeing Earth's recovery efforts while preparing for the future. The military had grown stronger, thanks in part to the salvage technology from the Krylos flagship. Dr. Benjamin Cole and his team worked tirelessly to adapt the alien systems for human use. They developed new weapons, reinforced ship armor, and even created advanced communication devices, capable of intercepting signals across vast distances. Every breakthrough brought Earth one step closer to defending itself against another attack. Rachel knew the Krylos would return. Their retreat had been strategic, not permanent. She often found herself staring at maps of the solar system, imagining where they might strike next. Her nights were restless, haunted by the faces of those who hadn't come back. But she refused to let fear dictate her actions. Instead, she focused on making Earth stronger, a planet united and prepared for whatever came next. President Allen Carter announced the formation of a global defense initiative, a coalition of nations dedicated to protecting Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Under Rachel's leadership, the initiative expanded Earth's fleet, trained new pilots, and established monitoring stations throughout the solar system. Civilians rallied behind the cause, volunteering their skills and resources to support the effort. Factories churned out ships and supplies, while schools introduced programs to teach children about space exploration and defense. Humanity was determined not to be caught off guard again. Journalist Daniel Harper traveled extensively during this time, documenting the changes sweeping the globe. In Tokyo, he met engineers designing faster-than-light engines based on Krylos technology. In London, he interviewed scientists studying fragments of the Sentinel's ships, hoping to unlock their secrets. Everywhere he went, he saw evidence of humanity's resilience and determination. "We've been given a second chance," one scientist told him. "It's up to us to make the most of it." Daniel also visited families affected by the war, sharing their stories of loss and hope. A farmer in Iowa showed him a field where crops were growing again after months of neglect. "The soil remembers how to heal," the man said, smiling. "Just like people." In South Africa, a group of children played soccer near a memorial honoring fallen soldiers. When Daniel asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up, many answered without hesitation: astronauts, scientists, or pilots. The battle had ignited a spark in the younger generation, inspiring them to reach for the stars. Back at the command center, Rachel received updates from reconnaissance teams stationed on Mars and beyond. So far, there was no sign of the Krylos, but the absence of activity only heightened her unease. She ordered patrols to double their efforts, ensuring every corner of the solar system was monitored. At the same time, she pushed for diplomacy, believing that understanding aliens could prevent future conflicts. Teams of linguists and anthropologists worked alongside scientists to decode alien languages and study their cultures. Humanity couldn't afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. One evening, Rachel received an unexpected transmission. It came from deep space, far beyond the reach of Earth's sensors. The voice was familiar, calm and measured, speaking in flawless English. "This is Captain Elena Vega of the Sentinel Fleet," it began. "Your species has shown remarkable strength and resolve. However, the challenges you face are far from over." Rachel froze, her heart pounding. She had thought the Sentinels were gone for good. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Are the Krylos coming back?" Vega's response was cryptic. The Krylos are but one threat among many. The universe is vast and unpredictable. Your survival depends on your ability to adapt and unite, not just as individuals but as a collective force. Before Rachel could ask more questions, the transmission ended. She replayed the message multiple times, searching for hidden meanings. The Sentinels had intervened once, but they wouldn't always be there to protect Earth. Their words served. As both a warning and a challenge, humanity had to stand on its own. Determined to rise to the challenge, Rachel convened a meeting with President Carter and other global leaders. Together, they drafted plans for a permanent space station orbiting Earth, a fortress equipped with cutting-edge technology and staffed by the best minds in science and defense. The station would serve as a hub for research, communication, and military operations, ensuring humanity was ready for any threat. Construction began immediately, with contributions from every nation on the planet. As the months turned into years, Earth transformed. What had once been a divided world became a united front working together toward a common goal. Space travel became routine, with colonies thriving on Mars and the Moon. Schools taught students about the importance of cooperation, emphasizing that humanity's greatest strength lay in its diversity. Artists, writers, and musicians drew inspiration from the stars, creating works that celebrated the beauty and mystery of the cosmos. Rachel watched these changes unfold with pride. Though she remained vigilant, always scanning the skies for signs of danger, she allowed herself moments of peace. On clear nights, she climbed to the roof of the command center and gazed at the stars. She thought about Laura Bennett and the others who had given their lives to protect Earth. Their sacrifices had paved the way for a brighter future, one where humanity could dream of exploring the universe instead of fearing it. One day, a young pilot named Ethan approached Rachel after a training exercise. He was barely 18, his face still marked by youthful excitement. "Commander Hayes," he said, saluting awkwardly, "I just wanted to thank you. My dad used to tell me stories about how you saved Earth. I want to be like you someday." Rachel smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You already are," she said. "By choosing to serve, you're carrying the torch. Just remember, it's not about being fearless. It's about doing what's right, even when you're scared." Ethan nodded, his eyes shining with determination. "I won't let you down." Years later, when Earth faced another crisis, a rogue asteroid hurtling toward the planet, it was Ethan who led the mission to destroy it. Pilots from around the world joined forces, using the skills and technology developed in the aftermath of the Krylos battle. Together, they saved the planet once again. Humanity had learned from its past, proving that unity and courage could overcome even the greatest challenges. Rachel retired shortly after the asteroid mission, passing the torch to a new generation of leaders. She moved to a quiet home overlooking the ocean, spending her days writing memoirs and mentoring young cadets. Her book, titled Through the Storm, became required reading for all recruits. In it, she recounted the events of the Krylos battle and reflected on the lessons learned. "We are small in the grand scheme of things," she wrote, "but our hearts are big enough to hold the universe." As the decades passed, Earth continued to grow and evolve. Colonies sprang up on distant moons, and humanity reached out to other civilizations, forging alliances and sharing knowledge. The Sentinels never returned, but their message stayed with Rachel and with humanity as a whole. Strength lay not in weapons, but in unity. And as long as people remembered that lesson, they would endure. On her final night, Rachel sat on the porch of her seaside home, watching the stars twinkle above the horizon. She thought about the journey Earth had taken, from a fragile blue planet to a beacon of hope in the galaxy. Somewhere out there, the Krylos and the Sentinels still existed, their fates unknown. But here on Earth, humanity had proven itself capable of greatness. With a contented sigh, Rachel closed her eyes, letting the sound of the waves lull her to sleep. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity would face it together. The battle was over, but the scars it left behind were deep. Earth's skies, once filled with the chaos of war, now seemed eerily quiet. The Krylos fleet had retreated, their massive ships disappearing into the darkness of space. The Sentinels, the mysterious black fleet that had shielded humanity, were gone too. They had vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving no trace of their presence except for the faint shimmer of energy that lingered in the upper atmosphere. It was as if they had never been there at all. Commander Rachel Hayes stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the screens displaying the aftermath of the battle. The images were sobering. Burnt-out fighter jets floating lifelessly in orbit, chunks of debris from destroyed ships drifting aimlessly, and the charred remains of the Krylos flagship slowly breaking apart. She felt a mixture of relief and grief. Humanity had survived, but the cost had been staggering. Dozens of pilots and soldiers had lost their lives, and countless civilians had been displaced or injured during the evacuation efforts. The victory felt hollow without them. Rachel turned to face her team, who were gathered around the central table. Lieutenant Chris Dawson leaned against the wall, his uniform stained with soot and sweat. His face was pale, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Captain Laura Bennett sat nearby, her hands trembling slightly as she sipped a cup of coffee. Neither of them spoke. The weight of what they had endured hung heavy in the air. They had fought bravely, but the memories of those they had lost would stay with them forever. "We did it," Rachel said finally, her voice soft but firm. "We stood our ground and we won. That's something to be proud of." Chris nodded slowly, though his expression remained somber. "It doesn't feel like a win," he admitted. "Too many good people didn't make it back." Laura set her cup down and looked up. "They knew the risks," she said quietly, "and they gave everything to protect us. We owe it to them to keep going, to rebuild and make sure their sacrifice wasn't for nothing." Rachel agreed. "That's exactly what we'll do," she said. "But first we need to take care of our own. Everyone needs rest, medical attention, and time to process what happened. This isn't over yet." Outside the command center, the world was beginning to recover. In cities and towns across the globe, people emerged from shelters blinking in the sunlight. Streets that had been deserted during the battle were slowly coming back to life. Volunteers worked tirelessly to clean up debris, repair damaged buildings, and distribute food and supplies to those in need. The sense of unity that had carried humanity through the crisis remained strong, even as exhaustion set in. Journalist Daniel Harper traveled to Chicago, where he found communities banding together to support one another. Neighbors helped clear rubble from sidewalks, while local businesses donated food and clothing to those who had lost everything. A young boy named Ethan handed out bottles of water to passing volunteers, his face streaked with dirt but lit with determination. "My dad says we have to help each other," he told Daniel proudly. "That's how we get stronger." Daniel captured moments like these on camera, determined to document not just the destruction, but also the resilience of the human spirit. He interviewed survivors, listening to their stories of fear, loss, and hope. One woman, an elderly widow named Margaret, recounted how strangers had taken her in when her apartment building collapsed. "I thought I'd die alone," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But then these angels showed up and saved me. I'll never forget their kindness." As the days passed, governments and organizations around the world began coordinating recovery efforts. Factories reopened to produce materials needed for rebuilding, and scientists worked to salvage technology from the wreckage of the battle. Dr. Benjamin Cole led a team tasked with studying the remnants of the Krylos flagship, hoping to learn more about their technology and prevent future attacks. "This is our chance to grow stronger," he told Rachel during a briefing. "If we can adapt some of their systems, we might be able to defend ourselves better next time." Next time. The phrase sent a chill down Rachel's spine. She knew the Krylos wouldn't stay away forever. Their retreat was likely temporary, a strategic withdrawal rather than a permanent defeat. Humanity had bought itself time, but the threat wasn't gone. Still, she refused to dwell on the uncertainty. For now, they had a chance to heal and to prepare. President Alan Carter addressed the nation once again, this time with a message of gratitude and resolve. Standing before a backdrop of the American flag, he praised the bravery of the military and the resilience of ordinary citizens. "Today we mourn those we've lost," he said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "But we also celebrate their courage and honor their memory by vowing to rebuild. This is not the end of our story. It's a new beginning." In the weeks that followed, memorials were erected in cities around the world to honor the fallen. Statues of soldiers and pilots stood alongside plaques bearing the names of civilians who had perished in the conflict. Flowers, candles, and messages of remembrance covered the bases of these monuments, symbols of humanity's collective grief and gratitude. Rachel visited one such memorial in Washington, D.C., pausing to read the names engraved on the stone. Among them was Captain Laura Bennett, who had sacrificed herself during the final assault on the Krylos flagship. Her name was etched near the top, surrounded by tributes from friends and family. Rachel placed a hand on the cold surface, her throat tightening. "You were right," she whispered. "Your sacrifice wasn't for nothing." Chris joined her a moment later, holding a bouquet of flowers. Together they stood in silence, paying their respects. When they finally walked away, Chris spoke softly. "She always said she wanted to leave a mark," he said. "I think she did." As Earth began to heal, questions lingered about the Sentinels. Who were they? Why had they intervened? And why had they left so abruptly? President Carter authorized a special task force to investigate, hoping to uncover answers. Rachel volunteered to lead the effort, believing that understanding the Sentinels' motives could be key to humanity's survival. "They gave us a fighting chance," she told Carter. "But I don't think they'll come back if we're in trouble again. We need to figure out what they want and whether we can trust them." The task force scoured data collected during the battle, analyzing every transmission and piece of intel related to the Sentinels. They discovered fragments of communication, suggesting the fleet had been monitoring Earth for centuries, waiting for the right moment to intervene. Captain Elena Vega's final message hinted at a deeper purpose. Strength lies not in weapons, but in unity. Rachel puzzled over the words, wondering if they held a clue to the Sentinels' true intentions. Meanwhile, Daniel Harper published a book chronicling the events of the battle, titled Shadows and Stars. It became an instant bestseller, capturing the hearts of readers worldwide. Through vivid storytelling and first-hand accounts, Daniel highlighted the heroism and sacrifices of ordinary people who had risen to meet extraordinary challenges. The book ended with a call to action. "We are not alone in the universe, but neither are we helpless. If we stand united, we can face whatever comes next." Rachel read the book cover to cover, finding solace in its message of hope. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also believed humanity was capable of greatness. The battle against the Krylos had proven that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, people could come together to protect what mattered most. One evening, Rachel stood on the roof of the command center, gazing up at the stars. The sky was clear, dotted with pinpricks of light that seemed endless. Somewhere out there, the Krylos were regrouping. Somewhere else, the Sentinels watched silently, their motives still unknown. And here on Earth, humanity was rebuilding, preparing for whatever lay ahead. Rachel took a deep breath, feeling a quiet resolve settle over her. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but Earth had taken its first step toward becoming a galactic power. No matter what challenges awaited, humanity would face them, not as individuals, but as a united species. For the first time in days, Rachel allowed herself a small smile. The fight wasn't over, but neither was humanity's story. The Black Fleet remained an enigma, its presence both a blessing and a mystery. For hours it hovered silently between Earth and the Krylos Armada, neither attacking nor retreating. Its sleek obsidian ships glided through space with unnatural precision, their movements smooth and deliberate. The energy field surrounding them shimmered faintly, repelling any attempts by the Krylos to scan or probe them. Despite their imposing appearance, they did nothing to escalate the conflict. Instead, they simply stood as a barrier, a silent shield protecting humanity from annihilation. On Earth, people watched the skies with bated breath. News channels broadcast live footage of the standoff, showing the alien fleets locked in a tense stalemate. Speculation ran rampant. Some believed the black ships were sent by God, while others thought they might be advanced humans from the future. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire on social media, each more outlandish than the last. Yet no one could deny the sense of hope their arrival had sparked. For the first time since the Krylos ultimatum, humanity dared to believe it might survive. Commander Rachel Hayes spent nearly every waking moment analyzing the Black Fleet. Her team at the command center worked tirelessly, using Earth's limited technology to gather data on the mysterious vessels. They discovered that the ships emitted a type of energy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It was powerful, adaptive, and seemingly indestructible. Whatever these ships were made of, they were far beyond anything Earth or the Krylos possessed. Rachel knew they couldn't rely solely on the Black Fleet. If the newcomers decided to leave, or worse, turn against Earth, humanity would be left defenseless. She ordered her pilots to prepare for battle, knowing they might have to face the Krylos head-on. Lieutenant Chris Dawson and Captain Laura Bennett led training exercises, drilling their squadrons on evasive maneuvers and targeting strategies. Though their ships were outdated and slow, Rachel insisted they focus on exploiting any weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. Every second counted. Meanwhile, Dr. Benjamin Cole continued his efforts to decipher the Krylos' language. Using fragments of their earlier transmission, he pieced together patterns and meanings, hoping to uncover clues about their intentions. His work was painstaking, but he refused to give up. "If we can understand them," he told Rachel during one of their late-night meetings, "we might find a way to negotiate or at least anticipate their next move." As days passed, the tension mounted. The Krylos grew increasingly impatient, sending repeated warnings demanding Earth's surrender. Their transmissions grew angrier, laced with threats of destruction if their demands weren't met. President Alan Carter remained resolute, refusing to bow to their ultimatum. In public addresses, he urged citizens to stay strong and united. "We will not abandon our home," he declared. "Not now, not ever." But behind closed doors, even Carter harbored doubts. He convened daily meetings with his advisors, seeking guidance on how to proceed. General Simmons argued for evacuation plans, suggesting they relocate key personnel and resources to underground bunkers. Others pushed for a diplomatic solution, though few believed the Krylos would listen. Rachel advocated for a bold strategy: use the Black Fleet's presence to buy time and launch a surprise attack on the Krylos flagship. It was risky, but she saw no other option. Amidst the chaos, journalist Daniel Harper traveled across the country, documenting humanity's response to the crisis. In New York City, he interviewed civilians who shared their fears and hopes. A young mother named Sarah spoke of her determination to protect her children, vowing to fight if necessary. An elderly man named Frank expressed his belief that humanity's fate was already sealed. "We're just ants to them," he said bitterly. "They'll crush us without a second thought." Daniel also visited military bases, where soldiers prepared for what many considered a suicide mission. He spoke with Lieutenant Dawson, who admitted he wasn't sure they could win, but added that giving up wasn't an option. "If we go down," Dawson said, gripping the controls of his fighter jet, "we'll take as many of them with us as we can." Then, on the third day of the standoff, something unexpected happened. A transmission came through, not from the Krylos, but from the HFY Black Fleet. The voice was calm and measured, speaking in flawless English. "This is Captain Elena Vega of the Sentinel Fleet," it began. "We are aware of your situation and have intervened to ensure you have a chance to defend yourselves. However, we are not here to fight your battles. Our role is to provide a window of opportunity. Use it wisely." The message sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. Finally, there was confirmation. The Black Fleet was not human, nor were they allies, in the traditional sense. They called themselves the Sentinels, a group that claimed to have been watching Earth for centuries. According to Vega, their mission was to safeguard fledgling civilizations from external threats, but only to a point. They wouldn't engage directly in combat, nor would they offer unlimited protection. Rachel listened to the recording multiple times, searching for hidden meanings. She found Vega's words cryptic but reassuring. The Sentinels weren't saviors, but they weren't indifferent either. They had given humanity a fighting chance, and that was more than anyone could have hoped for. Still, questions lingered. Why had they chosen this moment to intervene? What did they stand to gain or lose by helping Earth? President Carter addressed the nation once again, sharing the contents of the transmission. He emphasized the need for unity and resolve, urging citizens to support the military's efforts. "The Sentinels have given us a lifeline," he said. "It's up to us to make the most of it." His words resonated with millions, reigniting a spirit of defiance that had wavered in recent days. In the days that followed, Earth's leaders devised a plan. Using the Sentinels' protective barrier, they would launch a series of coordinated attacks on the Krylos fleet. Rachel took charge of the operation, dividing her forces into small, agile squadrons capable of striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could retaliate. Pilots trained tirelessly, memorizing formations and rehearsing tactics. Engineers worked around the clock to upgrade weapon systems and reinforce armor plating. Dr. Cole, meanwhile, made a breakthrough. By analyzing intercepted signals from the Krylos, he identified a potential vulnerability in their shield generators. If targeted precisely, it could create a temporary gap in their defenses, allowing Earth's fighters to inflict significant damage. Rachel immediately incorporated this information into her strategy, knowing it might be their only chance to turn the tide. As preparations continued, ordinary citizens rallied to support the war effort. Factories churned out supplies, volunteers staffed shelters, and communities came together to care for those displaced by the crisis. In cities and towns across the globe, people displayed symbols of resistance: flags, banners, and murals depicting Earth's resilience. The sentiment was clear: humanity would not go quietly into the night. Yet despite the renewed optimism, fear still lingered. Everyone knew the odds were against them. The Krylos were a formidable foe, their technology vastly superior to Earth's. Even with the Sentinels' help, victory was far from guaranteed. But for the first time in days, there was a sense of purpose. Humanity had been given a chance to fight back, and they intended to seize it. Rachel stood in the command center, staring at the screens displaying the positions of the fleets. Her mind raced with possibilities, scenarios, and contingencies. She knew the coming battle would test every ounce of skill, courage, and ingenuity humanity possessed. Failure meant extinction, but success could change everything. For now, the Sentinels held the line, their ships unwavering in their vigilance. Behind them, Earth braced for war, its people united in a shared goal: survival. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the fate of humanity rested in the hands of those willing to risk everything to protect it. The year was 2147, and humanity had finally begun to stretch its reach beyond the confines of Earth. The first colonies on Mars were thriving, and exploration ships ventured farther into the solar system than ever before. But despite these achievements, Earth remained the heart of human civilization, a blue-green jewel in the vastness of space. It was a time of discovery, but also uncertainty. People wondered if they were alone in the universe or if other intelligent beings existed among the stars. That question was answered one fateful morning when an enormous alien ship descended from the heavens. It wasn't just large, it was colossal, dwarfing even the tallest skyscrapers on Earth. The ship hovered silently above the planet's atmosphere, casting a shadow over entire cities. Its metallic surface shimmered with colors that seemed to shift and change, making it look almost alive. For hours, no one knew what to do. Governments scrambled to respond, scientists tried to make sense of the phenomenon, and ordinary people stared up at the sky in awe and fear. Then came the message. A voice boomed across every communication channel on Earth: televisions, radios, phones, and even satellites. The language was strange, filled with guttural tones and sharp clicks, but somehow everyone understood it. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth," the voice said. "This is Commander Zorvac of the Krylos Dominion. Your world has been deemed unworthy of independent existence. Surrender your planet or face annihilation." The announcement sent shockwaves through humanity. Panic erupted in streets around the globe. Families huddled together, unsure of what to do. Some rushed to grocery stores, clearing shelves in preparation for the worst. Others prayed, hoping this was all some kind of misunderstanding. In government offices and military bases, leaders debated their next move. Should they surrender? Could they fight back? No one had answers. In Washington, D.C., President Alan Carter called an emergency meeting of his top advisors. The situation. Room buzzed with tension as generals, scientists, and politicians argued about how to respond. Among them sat Commander Rachel Hayes, a woman known for her calm demeanor under pressure. She led Earth's fledgling space defense fleet, a collection of outdated ships and untested pilots, hastily assembled after the discovery of extraterrestrial life. Rachel listened intently as others voiced their opinions, her mind racing with possibilities. "We don't have a choice," said General Harold Simmons, a gruff man with decades of military experience. "Their technology is light years ahead of ours. If we resist, they'll wipe us out." He gestured toward a screen displaying images of the Krylos ship. "Look at the size of that thing. One blast from their weapons could level a city." "But if we surrender," countered Dr. Benjamin Cole, a soft-spoken scientist who specialized in alien communications, "we lose everything. Our freedom, our resources, maybe even our lives. Is that really better than fighting?" Rachel leaned forward, her piercing green eyes locking onto each person in the room. "If we give up now," she said firmly, "we're telling the universe that humanity is weak, that we're not worth respecting. I say we stand our ground. We may not win, but at least we'll go down fighting." Her words sparked murmurs of agreement, but doubt lingered in the air. Earth's military might was nothing compared to the Krylos Dominion. Their weapons were primitive, their ships slow and poorly armored. Even the bravest soldiers knew the odds were stacked against them. As the clock ticked closer to the deadline set by the Krylos, a mere 48 hours, the mood grew darker. News outlets broadcast constant updates, showing footage of the massive alien vessel looming overhead. Social media was flooded with posts from terrified citizens. Some begged world leaders to surrender, while others urged resistance. Protests broke out in major cities, with crowds shouting slogans like, "Earth will not fall," and "No surrender." Amidst the chaos, something extraordinary happened. Just as hope seemed to be fading, a new fleet appeared in the sky. These ships were unlike anything anyone had seen before. Sleek and black, they moved with precision and grace, forming a protective barrier between Earth and the Krylos Armada. They didn't attack, nor did they communicate. They simply stayed there, silently defying the invaders. The sudden arrival of the mysterious fleet stunned both the Krylos and Earth's leaders. Who were these newcomers? Were they allies, enemies, or something else entirely? Speculation ran wild. Some believed they were advanced humans from the future, while others thought they might be another alien race intervening on Earth's behalf. President Carter ordered Rachel to investigate. Using Earth's limited scanning technology, her team gathered data on the black ships. What they found was astonishing. The vessels emitted a powerful energy field that seemed to repel the Krylos' attempts to scan or target them. Whoever, or whatever they were, they clearly possessed technology, far beyond anything Earth or the Krylos had. Rachel felt a flicker of hope for the first time since the crisis began. Maybe they weren't alone after all. Maybe help had arrived when it mattered most. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Why had these ships shown up now? And why hadn't they communicated yet? Back on the streets, the appearance of the Black Fleet reignited humanity's spirit. People cheered and celebrated, believing salvation had come. Journalists flocked to cover the event, capturing images of the sleek ships and interviewing experts who speculated about their origins. Daniel Harper, a young reporter for a major news network, traveled to New York City to document the unfolding drama. Armed with a camera and notebook, he spoke to ordinary citizens, asking how they felt about the mysterious newcomers. "I think they're here to save us," said Maria Lopez, a mother of two holding her children close. "God sent them to protect us." "Maybe," replied James O'Connor, a construction worker standing nearby. "Or maybe they've got their own plans. You can't trust anybody these days, especially not aliens." Daniel nodded thoughtfully, jotting down their words. He wanted to capture the full scope of humanity's reaction, the fear, the hope, the uncertainty. Whatever happened next, he knew it would change the course of history forever. Meanwhile, inside the White House, President Carter addressed the nation. Standing behind a podium flanked by American flags, he spoke with determination. "To the people of Earth," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "We are facing the greatest challenge in our history. An alien empire has demanded our surrender, but we will not bow to tyranny. Thanks to the arrival of a mysterious fleet, we now have a chance to defend ourselves. We will use this opportunity to stand united and show the universe that humanity cannot be broken." His speech resonated with millions. Though fear still lingered, it was tempered by resolve. Factories ramped up production of weapons and supplies. Volunteers signed up to join the military. Scientists worked around the clock to improve Earth's defenses. Humanity prepared for war, clinging to the slim hope that the Black Fleet would tip the scales in their favor. Rachel returned to her command center, where technicians monitored the situation non-stop. She studied the screens showing the positions of the Krylos ships and the Black Fleet, trying to anticipate their next moves. Time was running out, and decisions needed to be made. Would the mysterious Guardians fight alongside Earth, or would they simply watch as humanity faced extinction? For now, the answer remained unknown. But one thing was clear. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the coming days would determine whether humanity survived or vanished forever.